I was a collector of something all my life. Baseball cards, marbles, matchbook covers. You know, I just had this penchant for collecting, and so when I got some money with Cheech and Chong, I started collecting art. At first, it was Art Nouveau. I started collecting Art Nouveau, and I put together a big collection of it because I loved it, and it was, you know, and it was the hippie art of the day, you know, based on nature, and then it all of a sudden got very popular again. So I said, well, I gotta find something else to collect. And at that point, I discovered these Chicano artists. Chicano art is art by and about Chicanos and Chicanas. The Chicano art movement started off as the visual face of the political movement, the civil rights movement. Chicano civil rights movement was happening at the period. As time went on, it became less political and more individual artistic, visions, and they went on. But every once in a while, it veers back into and comments on. So we're starting to see that now. But this is good art. I see what they're doing. They're very good artists. And I started collecting their stuff. Because any young painters or any young artists that come into the field, they want to make their living painting, so something that's of your own culture is much more attractive than something that isn't, you know. Hardly any of the artists were established when I started buying. They were known, but not established and collected in, by museums or big collectors or anything like that. It was interesting. I had my pick of a lot of works of art. There were masterpieces of Chicano art that were still out there available for purchase. And I was like half a step ahead of a bunch of other collectors who had kind of gotten on the same wavelength there, and they were good. And they said every time I go to get this piece, and Cheech has just been here, 2 days ago. All of a sudden, I said every time I collected or bought a piece, the vision of what it is emerged and got bigger. The first tour I did was Chicano Visions, and it was a big tour. I mean, we played all major museums, the Smithsonian, LACMA. It went on forever. There was 14 museums we played in 7 years. All major museums, because we had funding and backing from Target stores and Hewlett-Packard. And so that was going along really well. And so then I thought, but I like this process, and I like spreading the word and showing the collection, but they've only seen a small part of it. So I started subdividing it into other categories, like works on paper, or works by women, works by Texas women. And then you could play smaller museums that didn't have such a lead time, to get in. So we could go to a lot of smaller museums and spread the word. So I was in the process of doing that when I did a show at the Riverside Museum. And it was the biggest, as were all of them, the biggest attendance that I ever had for any of their shows. And so they had this building. It was the town library, and they had to. They were going to repurpose it, and they had because they were building a new library down the street, like a little Jetsons library, with swirling lights in it. And they were looking for something to do with this building rather than knock it down, which was another one of their options. And so after the success of the show at Riverside, the city manager put forth this idea that maybe we could give it to Cheech for the collection. And then I didn't understand what they were asking me when they first, proposed this. Hey, you want me to buy a museum? I'm doing okay, but I don't know if I'm museum rich, yet. And so they, no, we want to give you the museum to house the collection. It'll be the only thing in it, but you have to give us a collection. And one thing led to another, so I just kind of jumped off the cliff and hoped for the best. And it's turned out wildly successful, beyond anybody's dreams. I love going in the museum. Every time I go there, even today, so I want to see what's up, So it's a surprise for me. I mean, the city of Riverside just recently hired an outside agency to determine what the economic impact of the museum was for the city of Riverside. And they found out in the first 2 years, the impact was $29.1 million from our museum. Brought, to Riverside, hotels, restaurants. And so it's, all of a sudden it was this public-private partnership that was unusual, maybe in fact unique, you know. So, and everybody looked at me with a kind of a stink eye when I, you know, when this thing was going through, and I had to talk a lot of times before the town council. And now it's proved itself, you know, viable, and so now it's a model for other establishments to form that kind of partnership. So it was really, you know, it's because there was such a thirst. There was such a thirst for this museum and Chicano art and Latino art in general. Well, in the community, it's been enormous. You know, they finally had a place to go to see the art and that represented them. And it's amazing. And people come multiple times and with their families, you know. And so I learned from the first tour that for many of the audience that came to those shows at the Smithsonian, at LACMA, at the other museums, it's the first time a lot of those people had been in any museum in their lives. And then they repeated that process. They came back to see the show, or they started going to other museums. That's the kind of the goose that laid the golden egg for, you know, museum people. Yeah, get them to come back, you know. And then I was outside of the museum community. We were kind of an anomaly, but everybody started getting into, oh, what's Chicano art? I'm a collector, I should take a look. I'm meeting people all the time now who are buying Chicano art that had never even heard of it before 2 years ago. There was such a need. My mantra had been, you can't love or hate Chicano art unless you see it. And so how do you get to see it? You have to have a place to go, you know, that's gonna be there all the time when you have time. It's happening, man. It's like, wow, cool, you know. And now when we spread the legacy and see the extent of the reach of Chicano culture and or art, it's all over the country, you know, especially in the Midwest. I mean, Chicago is the second biggest conglomeration of Mexicans in the United States outside of LA. Chicago. So there was a big community there. And you would never know it from Chicago because that's not the face of the Chicago that's being put out there. There's nothing more pleasurable to me than standing in front of a new painting that I've never seen by an artist that I've never seen. And wow, this is cool. There's a standard that I apply that I don't usually buy something on first sight. And I know that I'm supposed to because they'll start haunting my dreams. I mean, really, that happens. And they're like, why am I dreaming about this painting? And I'm like, wow, and what is this supposed to mean? I'm supposed to get it, you know? And it has worked out almost every single time that when I go back and check on, it's still available. A collection, a really worthy collection, takes time to do it, you know. You have to kind of get a piece here, and how does that relate to the next piece? And you find and artists that I really like, I collect them in depth. So I'd have 20 pieces by an artist or 30 pieces by an artist, you know, and then move on to another artist and discover a whole new. And then I've been doing it long enough, so there's many generations now that are represented. So that's really cool, you know, to see all these. And it just, they keep emerging all the time. You know? So, hey, this is a fun process. It's like having children and then grandchildren and great-grandchildren and great-great-grandchildren. So, you know, as long as I stay alive for that process, it keeps me alive.
Want more museum content? Don't go anywhere. Just click the link right here to watch all of our content from AAM TV 2025. Have fun.